Music. Symbolism in the Order of the Eastern Star, just for members. Music and poetry have a very important place in our organization. Both music and poetry are intimately linked since both are basically made up of sounds and silences. What is music? Music is sound, and sound is a wave. It is a vibration. In its highest interpretations, music tries to reproduce a feeling. It tries to interpret it through a song that sensitizes, that opens the heart and touches the soul of the listener. Nowadays, many use the music to practice meditation, yoga, or to relax, or simply to calm the mind and focus their attention. There are scientific studies that indicate that patients with coronary heart disease who practice meditation and singing reduce their risk of a heart attack or stroke by almost 50% compared to those subjects who did not meditate or sing. As if that were not enough, they say that music has a calming power that helps reduce anxiety and depression. Also, we can see the positive effects that classical music has on plants. We can say then that music is important for the health of human beings, whether they are a member of the Order of the Eastern Star or not. Not only in the health field is music considered an important vehicle, but also in the spiritual realm. To date, no archaeological evidence has been found that allows us to ensure that humans made music in prehistory. There are no texts or scores, but it is evident that human beings' need for communication prompted the creation of languages from what before were sounds that primitive man used. This idea leads us to think that before there was a word with a certain logical structure, there was already a melody, or perhaps even a song. Ancient peoples used chants for everything. When they learned about the movement of the planets, they sang melodies more conducive to harvesting and planting. They sang in search of protection from the hostile environments that surrounded them. The sacred, therefore, began to occupy a unique place. The melodies and songs became a means of expression. Singing is the emission of sounds by the human voice that follow a musical composition. No doubt it was a simple code dedicated to the gods. The primitives supposed that their deities could hear their intonations directed to pray for water, food, and life. Over the years, music has evolved and diversified into multiple genres, although it has preserved a certain spiritual quality. Some studies affirm that the Greeks, for example, used certain musical melodies to produce certain effects in their rituals and popular festivals. But it is not strange to observe the ability of music to alter our moods. Music is a combination of sound. The way it is organized can produce certain effects in the listener. It is obvious that it can produce sadness, joy, or rapture, even without the performer intending it, because music eludes our rational mind and is perceived with the soul. The knowledge of the effect that each note produces in the body can contribute to elevate our thought and make it vibrate on high scales. perhaps angelic, like those that he claims to have heard in 850, the Benedictine monk Remigius of Auxerre. He claims he heard angels singing, memorized the melody, and then reproduced it, giving rise to the famous Gregorian chants. But after the Middle Ages, music became popular. It left the temples and moved to be shared with the people. It is an undeniable fact that music, including singing among other artistic expressions, influences our sensitive body, but above all, our spirit. From the conception of it, the author feels the need to share an idea. They organize certain sounds that need to be expressed with certain words that must be recited with a certain intonation, so that they generate the specific effect, because all true art carries a deep connection in the spiritual. Music can be trivial, or it can be sublime, and carry a transcendent message that connects our soul with the supernatural world, with divinity, God, the supreme being, or the grand architect of the universe, whatever you call it. When talking about music, it is impossible not to talk about rhythm, that marks sound of a certain intensity and duration, or of fixed pauses that are repeated or alternate from time to time, although each musical melody has its own rhythm. The law of rhythm is linked to that of polarity that travels between silence and vibration, movement and inaction, generating cause and determined action in all things in the universe. Everything ebbs and flows like the waves of the sea, which come and go on an infinite journey. The seasons in the annual cycle, the lunar phases in the monthly cycle, allow us to identify the rhythm of the planet, of human life. So every day after night, it always dawns. The tides rise and fall, and the seasons change. Everything has a perfect rhythm in this magnificent symphony of our universe. All of this occurs on the physical plane, but it also happens on the mental and spiritual plane. The law of rhythm is perhaps one of the oldest laws in a kind of order that compensates and repeats, creating perfect, magical harmonies.